Independence at home doesn't come from willpower alone. It comes from a house that's actually set up to support you as your needs quietly shift over months and years, not overnight. Most people don't notice the change day to day. It's only looking back that you realize the stairs feel a little steeper, the tub feels a little slicker, and the porch light isn't quite bright enough anymore. The homes that let people stay comfortably and confidently independent for decades usually have one thing in common: a handful of practical items that quietly close those small gaps before they turn into real problems. None of these require a full remodel or a big budget. They're the kind of additions a family member can pick up in an afternoon and have working by dinner. And most of them cost less combined than a single month of a typical assisted living arrangement. Here are 10 things worth having in your home to keep independence exactly where it belongs, with you. Thing number 1, a large display, programmable pill organizer. Juggling multiple prescriptions with different schedules is genuinely complicated, and simple mix-ups, taking a dose twice or skipping it entirely, can have real health consequences, depending on the medication involved. A large display pill organizer with clear day and time labeling makes it easy to see at a glance whether today's dose has already been taken without relying purely on memory. Programmable versions add an audible alarm at each scheduled time, and some sync with a smartphone app that a family member can check remotely. For anyone managing 5 or more medications, which is common by this stage of life, this single item often prevents the exact kind of error that leads to an unplanned hospital visit. And pharmacists frequently point to medication mix-ups as one of the most preventable reasons older adults end up in the emergency room. It's a small investment that pays off in both safety and simple peace of mind. It's worth reviewing the full medication list with a pharmacist once a year as well, since some organizers only account for pills and can be harder to adapt for liquids, inhalers, or injections that follow a different schedule entirely. Staying connected to the outside world matters just as much as staying on top of medication. Thing number 2, a medical alert device. Living independently means accepting that help isn't always going to be an arm's length away if something goes wrong, whether that's a fall, a sudden dizzy spell, or chest pain that comes on without warning. A medical alert device, whether it's a wearable pendant, a wristband, or a base station system, lets you call for help with a single button press, without needing to reach a phone, dial a number, or explain the situation clearly under stress. Many modern versions include fall detection that can automatically trigger a call, even if you're unable to press the button yourself. For families living far away, this is often the single feature that turns anxious daily phone calls into genuine peace of mind, replacing a habit of calling just to check in with an actual system that would notice if something were genuinely wrong. Monthly costs vary depending on the provider and features like GPS tracking, so it's worth comparing a few options directly with the specific needs in mind. And it's worth reading the fine print on cancellation policies, contract length, before committing to any single provider. Waterproof versions are worth prioritizing, since a meaningful share of falls happen in or near the shower, where a non-waterproof pendant would be useless exactly when it's needed most. Beyond emergencies, it's worth thinking about how the home responds to everyday hazards too. Thing number 3, non-slip strips or mats in the shower. A bathtub or shower floor becomes noticeably more slippery once soap and water combine. And that's true no matter how careful or steady someone normally is on their feet. Adhesive non-slip strips or a textured rubber mat placed directly on the tub floor add real traction exactly where your feet need it most. They're inexpensive, they don't require any tools to install, and they can be replaced easily once the grip starts to wear down after a year or two of regular use. Combined with a grab bar, this single addition addresses the single most common location for falls inside the home. And together, the two cost less than most people spend on a single week of groceries. It's not glamorous, but it's one of those changes that pays for itself the very first time it prevents a slip. Look for strips rated specifically for wet environments, since not all adhesive products hold up the same way once they're exposed to daily water and soap residue. And check the grip periodically by running a hand across it to make sure it hasn't started to smooth out with age. Once the shower is secure, attention naturally turns to getting dressed and moving through the rest of the house. Thing number 4, a well-lit path from bedroom to bathroom. Getting up at 2 in the morning for the bathroom is routine for most people over 60, and it's also one of the most common times a fall happens, simply because the hallway is dark, the mind is still half asleep, and eyes need real time to adjust from a dark bedroom to an equally dark hallway. Motion-activated night lights, plugged into hallway outlets, or stuck along the baseboard, turn on automatically the moment you step out of bed and switch off once you're back, so there's never a fumble for a light switch in the dark. Some versions use warm, dim light specifically so they don't fully wake you up, which matters if you're trying to get back to sleep quickly. It's a 5-minute install and one of the cheapest fall prevention steps available, usually costing less than the price of a single takeout meal for a full multi-pack. Beyond the hallway, the same lights are worth placing near the kitchen entrance and by the front door, since those are the other 2 spots people tend to navigate in low light without thinking twice about it. Some newer models even adjust brightness automatically based on the room's existing ambient light, so they never feel jarring in the middle of the night. And battery-powered versions mean there's no wiring involved at all, just a stick-on mount and a fresh set of batteries once or twice a year. With the nighttime path handled, it's worth looking at what happens once you're actually standing on your own 2 feet in unfamiliar footing. Thing number 5, a smoke and carbon monoxide detector with voice alerts. Standard smoke detectors rely on a piercing beep that's genuinely hard to hear if hearing has changed over the years, or that can be confused with other household alarms during a moment of real confusion. Voice alert detectors announce the specific type of danger and its location out loud, such as fire kitchen, which cuts through confusion far faster than a generic beep ever could. Combination smoke and carbon monoxide detectors cover both major home hazards in a single unit, and most now run for up to 10 years on a sealed battery, removing the yearly hassle of battery swaps that so often gets forgotten until a low battery chirp wakes the whole house at 3 in the morning. Since carbon monoxide has no smell or color, this device is often the only warning a household gets before symptoms like dizziness or confusion set in, and those same symptoms can easily be mistaken for something else entirely if there's no alarm to point to the real cause. It's inexpensive and typically installs in minutes on an existing ceiling mount, and most hardware stores carry versions compatible with standard mounting brackets already in place. It's worth testing the unit monthly regardless of how new it is, simply pressing the test button to confirm both the alarm and the voice announcement are working as expected. With safety systems covered, the next priority becomes making the kitchen itself easier to manage day to day. Thing number 6, a rolling kitchen cart or utility cart. Carrying a hot dish, a stack of plates, or a pot of soup across the kitchen, while also trying to steady yourself, is a surprisingly common source of spills, burns, and near falls, especially for anyone using a cane or dealing with balance concerns. A rolling utility cart solves this by letting you push items across the kitchen instead of carrying them, using both hands to guide it rather than balancing a hot dish while walking. Many carts include a lower shelf for extra storage, which also reduces the need to bend down into low cabinets for frequently used items, and some households keep everyday essentials, like coffee filters, snacks, or pet food on the bottom shelf permanently, so they're never out of easy reach. They're inexpensive, widely available, and take up a manageable footprint in most kitchens. It sounds almost too simple to matter until you've used one during a holiday meal and realized how much easier moving multiple dishes has become. Look for one with locking wheels so it stays put while you're loading or unloading it rather than rolling away at an inconvenient moment. And consider a model with a raised edge or lip around each shelf to keep items from sliding off during transport. Cooking safely is only half the picture. Eating and drinking well matters just as much. Thing number 7, a sturdy cane or walking aid kept within reach. Balance issues don't always show up as a dramatic stumble. Often, it's a subtle unsteadiness that only becomes obvious when you're reaching for something on a high shelf, or turning quickly to answer the phone. Having a properly fitted cane or walking aid stored somewhere genuinely convenient, rather than in a closet, means it actually gets used instead of skipped, because it felt like too much trouble to retrieve. A physical therapist or doctor can help fit the right height and type, whether that's a simple single-point cane or a wider base quad cane for extra stability. Keeping one by the bed and another near the front door covers the two spots where people are most likely to need quick support. And a third stashed in the car is worth considering for anyone who still drives regularly, to appointments or the grocery store. It's a tool many people resist at first out of pride, but the ones who use it consistently report feeling more confident moving through their own home, not less. Rubber tips should be checked periodically for wear, since a smooth, worn-down tip loses much of its grip on hard flooring, and can actually become a hazard of its own, rather than a support. Think of it less as a symbol of decline, and more as the same kind of practical tool a hiker uses on uneven trail terrain. Nobody questions that choice. Thing number 8, a large button, amplified phone. Standard smartphones, with their small icons and touchscreen menus, can be genuinely frustrating for anyone dealing with vision changes, reduced dexterity, or simply a preference for something more straightforward. A large button, amplified phone, whether corded or cordless, offers oversized numbers, adjustable ringer volume, and significantly louder call audio than a standard phone provides. Many models include photo dial buttons, where a family member's picture can be programmed onto a single large button for one-touch calling. No need to remember or dial a number at all, which is especially useful for anyone managing early memory changes or simply anxious about misdialing during an urgent moment. Some versions also include an SOS button that automatically dials a preset emergency contact. For someone who's stopped using the phone as often simply because it's become a hassle, this can restore a habit that matters enormously for staying socially connected. Cordless versions also solve a related problem, letting you carry the handset from room to room instead of rushing to answer a wall-mounted phone before it stops ringing. Getting around outside the home is the next piece of the independence picture. Thing number 9, a sturdy outdoor handrail, or ramp, at entry points. Steps leading up to a front or back door are easy to overlook as a hazard, simply because they've always been there. But a single loose step or missing handrail is one of the more common places an outdoor fall happens, especially in rain, ice, or low evening light. A securely anchored handrail on both sides of exterior steps gives you something to hold on the way in and out, regardless of what you're carrying. And it's worth having a contractor confirm the mounting is anchored into a stud or masonry, rather than just the siding, since a rail that gives way under weight is worse than no rail at all. For homes with more than 2 or 3 steps, a low-grade ramp alongside them can make a significant difference for anyone using a cane, walker, or wheelchair, even occasionally. These additions are typically inexpensive contractor jobs, completed in a single day, and many communities offer assistance programs that help cover the cost for older homeowners. So it's worth calling a local area agency on aging to ask before assuming it isn't affordable. Reflective tape along the edge of each step also helps significantly after dark, giving just enough contrast to judge depth accurately, even under a dim porch light. Once entryways are secure, the final piece is making sure someone always knows how you're doing, even from a distance. Thing number 10, a simple check-in system. With family. Living independently doesn't mean living disconnected, and one of the most overlooked tools for staying safely at home is simply a reliable, low-effort way for family to know you're okay each day. This can be as basic as a daily text at a set time, or as structured as a smart speaker routine that logs a morning "good morning" and flags a family member if it doesn't happen by a certain hour. Some households use simple sensor-based systems that track normal activity, like the coffee maker turning on or a door opening, without any cameras or intrusive monitoring involved, which tends to feel far less invasive than a camera pointed at daily life while still catching the same kind of concerning silence. The goal isn't surveillance, it's a light, respectful safety net that catches a problem early, rather than hours or days later. Setting this up usually takes one honest conversation and about 10 minutes of setup. It's often the item on this list that brings the most peace of mind to everyone involved, not just the person living at home, and it tends to ease a specific kind of worry that otherwise builds quietly in the background for family members who live farther away. and can't simply stop by to check. The bottom line: staying independent after 60 isn't about proving you don't need help. It's about setting up a home that quietly has your back, so you rarely need to ask for it. Each of these 10 items solves a specific, common gap. A dark hallway, a slick shower floor, a phone with buttons too small to read comfortably. None of them are expensive, and none of them require giving up control of your own home or your own routine. What they add up to is a house that works with your body as it changes, instead of one that quietly makes daily life harder than it needs to be, item by item, year after year, without anyone quite noticing until the frustration has already piled up. If you're helping a parent or a spouse get set up, start with whichever item addresses the biggest current worry, whether that's falls, medication, or simply staying connected. And if you're setting this up for yourself, there's no shame in it. This is what smart, proactive living looks like. The same way wearing a seatbelt or locking the front door is just sensible rather than a sign that something is wrong. Most people find that once these 10 pieces are in place, the house stops feeling like something to be managed carefully and simply goes back to feeling like home. Subscribe for more practical, no-nonsense ways to keep independence exactly where it belongs.